believe that there should not be overseas imams. We're going to break this down into three aspects. The first one being social, the second one being economical, and the third one being political. First of all, let's define overseas imams. What we mean by imam is that Islamic scholar, and overseas imam is like imams from the subcontinents and the Middle East. I think we believe that we should not have any more overseas imams. That's because of the lack of communication with the general mass. There is a language barrier between the imam and the like public, and that there's not enough, there's not effective da'wah because they can't communicate, and that isolates the imam because he can't really communicate with the public. There was one sheikh who came to Iceland. His name was Yusuf Idris. He came from Saudi Arabia, and he only knew Arabic, which caused him to be isolated from the public, and he was not able to give da'wah. And this created they were not able to he was not able to share his knowledge with other people. My other teammates will further stress on the aspects of economical and political on the topic of there should not be any more overseas imams.
Assalamu alaikum. I would first like to thank the judges, the audience, and the opposing team for coming here to listen to my debate. I am the opposition, and we believe that there should be overseas imams for these three reasons. This is because the overseas imams, it's because there is no discrimination in Islam. That's our first point. Our second point is that the quality of the imams matter when they are chosen. Our third point is that there are too many immigrant Muslims to not have overseas imams. I will explain my first 2 points, and my third speaker will explain the last point, and my second speaker will explain the last point. My opposition said that the imams cannot communicate with the community and that they can cause isolation inside the community, but this is false, because when an imam is chosen, he is chosen by not only his Islamic credentials but by his English as well. So this means that just because he's from a different country doesn't always mean he has a bad accent. He could have learned his language in a university or a place where English is used a lot. This brings me to my point that they only choose the best quality imams when they are selecting. This is because when they select an imam, they don't just select him just because he knows Islamic credentials and he's from a different country. They choose him by how he can talk and how he can interact with the community. So their point that if you bring an overseas imam, then the people won't accept.
Well, it's not always the case that the masjid picks like someone who can speak and stuff. If you were to take the example I gave about Yusuf Idris.
But this is because the imam that they chose had not stayed in that area for a long time. He hadn't been able to adapt. If he had stayed in the ICM mosque, he would have been able to adapt and learn how to speak with the people, and he would have been able to open and communicate with the community without being isolated. So if they choose an imam, they could have picked him from overseas, but they could leave him here for a few years to adapt so that he can lose his accent and make it more easier for him to communicate with the community. So my first point that they only choose the best quality imams shows that if an imam from overseas doesn't know how to speak English, then it would be nearly impossible for him to enter a mosque, because how would he be assessed and why would people want to choose him? And like he said, the overseas imam that they got was is no longer the Imam because he doesn't know how to speak English and he was isolated. So this means that they could have chosen another overseas Imams that can well communicate, because not all overseas Imams cannot communicate. My second point is that there is no discrimination in Islam.
What about overseas imams that are brought on temporarily for like Ramadan or like specific months, just to do like one or two jobs and then something?
Well, if they choose an Imam for Ramadan and things like that, they wouldn't need him that much. All they need him for is to explain just a few things. If they were to choose someone from overseas, they would still use the same procedure that they use to choose a normal Imam. Or else why would they need an Imam who can't talk to people? Now, I'll continue with my second point, that there is no discrimination in Islam. All Muslims have the same basic teachings, and they all believe in the Prophet Muhammad. So if you choose someone who's from overseas, and just because he's from overseas you deny him, this would be against the teaching of Islam, that there is no discrimination. This would mean that you are not allowing people that have more knowledge than those in the local community to be Imam. Maybe the person from overseas knows more than any local Imam, so he should become the Imam because he's able to express his feelings in the end. In conclusion, I would like to say that there should be overseas Imams because they only choose the best quality Imams, and that there is no discrimination in Islam.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Mafiq and I'm on the opposition team on the topic of there should be no more overseas Imams. First, I will begin by refuting what my opposing team had said. They said that the overseas Imams have more knowledge. Well, over here in America, there are madrasas. There's one in Buffalo, and people graduate from there, and they can become imams. So there can be more national imams. Anyway, back to my point. On the political aspect, we should not have an overseas imam because they're unfamiliar with the Western society world, like the Western world. It's different from in the subcontinental areas. 85% of the subcontinent area is rural. This has been said by the United Nations. Also, the Department of Homeland Security showed that 63% of imams come from rural areas, so they are not familiar with the Western society. And they also bring cultural baggage which contains items that may be contraband, and they might not know about like food, valuable items, and pets, etc. And besides, after 9/11, the government